Found it though. Hi, everybody. Welcome to our Thursday book launch. I'm Malika Albrecht, and I am the founding editor of Redheaded Stepchild. And I've been fortunate enough to do this for the past 5 years. Cal, I think we got to echo. I'm going to mute you. Thank you, sir. I'm super excited tonight because it's nice when it's somebody I know very well and I can relax a little bit. We have an iPad 4 coming in. But we have to wait on that one. Tonight we're celebrating Maureen Sherbondy. Her poems have appeared in many different places: Southern Humanities Review, Feminist Studies, Calyx, New York Quarterly, Lips, and other journals. She has won the Hart Memorial Poetry Contest, the North Carolina Poet Laureate Prize, and many other awards. The Body Remembers, and I'm super excited to hear particularly from this book, is her 12th poetry book. To say she's prolific, yeah, I know. I just saw somebody say, Lynn, you're right. Wow. Not only in poetry, but in fiction and in flash fiction, really does it all. This is her 12th poetry book that we get to celebrate tonight. Maureen has also published a short story collection and a young adult novel. She retired recently from teaching English at a community college, and now she's consulting for a company in California. She also works part-time as an application reviewer for a university. And she's working on a new novel. Maureen, thank you so much for agreeing to come and celebrate with us. I'm really excited and grateful.
Thank you so much, Malika. I so appreciate that you continue to do this Zoom format for all of us. The cool thing is that friends that are far away and sometimes family can join us as well. And thank you all for signing in tonight. So I'm actually going to start with a poem that is not in the book, but I think it would fit in with the book, and it's very timely. So a lot's been going on that has been upsetting a lot of us. This is called Letter to the Patriarchy. And when I say patriarchy, I don't mean all men. I have 3 sons, I have grandsons. There are some wonderful men that I know. I have a wonderful husband as well. But you know who I'm talking about when I read this, okay? So I don't have to go on about that. I carry centuries of women inside my body. Try me. I am composed of snakes, wild creatures, and lost voices of matriarchs. Enter my dark halls without permission. Lion's teeth will bite and chomp. These serpent arms can loop around your neck like rope. You know, gentle words come first. Society has schooled me well, but I am so tired of sitting back, waiting for your spectacle of pumping biceps, flexing muscles with shallow threats. Sometimes the strongest men tumble most easily. I have breathed fire words on giants and watched them thump like dead trees in a storm. So I've been feeling a little angry lately. So that was a good one to write. That isn't in my book, but I'm writing poems like that. Okay, so this is the cover of The Body Remembers, and Malika, I think, had a cancellation and fit me in today. The book actually comes out October 14th, but you can go to Unsolicited Press and pre-order it now, and they'll send it to you. Okay. I have a website that one of my sons updated recently, so you could actually go to MaureenSherbondy.com to order any of my books if you click on the links. I'm going to start with a poem called Water. This book is all about the body. Family always slips into my writing, and other things related to the body. Water. The rain locates no escape, so it accumulates on macadam. Concrete barriers prevent exodus, so you try not to hydroplane into the other lane. If only the car were a boat, you'd simply float away from danger. Somehow you remain unscathed. Consider the body, too, is mostly water, liquid that both sustains and drowns. Without it, you would be only bones and skin, organs. Isn't everything then about the body? Before that first breath came, You swam in a fleshy pool until the water broke, releasing you in nakedness, not yet knowing how to finesse a course through this arid universe. Now I'm going to go to the first poem in the book, which is called Body. I think this was published in 13th Moon out of one of the SUNY schools many years ago. So I've been writing about the body for a while. Once again, this body seems not like my own, just some pea pod waiting to be shucked away. My body keeps taking over these poems. Body opens, nature comes in. Body wants to be cut away. I am trying to find the peas inside. During labor, my first baby couldn't find his way out. He twisted his neck back towards darkness, the waiting light too strong for his new eyes. The doctor got the scalpel. Did I ever have a choice? They sliced into my numbed pyramidal, as if I were not even there. I saw small, wet feet rise out of me. They stapled me shut. How could I not have separated body from mind? How can I ever own this body again? Now it wants to open back up, pull in the outside for good. Now that the body is closed, now that it is too late. So obviously, my first child was a C-section, and then I had two regular deliveries after that, which I preferred because of the recovery involved. But I have this C-section scar, and I noticed that whenever my oldest son was in trouble or got hurt, my C-section scar started itching. There was an article I read recently that had something to do with the DNA that's left in your body. You should look that up because it's fascinating. C-section scar. The throbbing begins 10 years later, whenever my son falls down at camp or bumps his arm against a pole at school. That shut window from where he reached out to the world swells and reddens, as if a small messenger were left behind, like a telephone line to ring in his pain. This one is called The Party at Night. I like parties. I like them to never end. When I met my husband, we had that in common. He said, I don't ever want the party to end. And I knew he was a match for me. The Party at Night. There is a party every evening above the trees. That is why we do not hear the birds singing after darkness. They are flitting about over the universal dance floor, sipping champagne from silver flask feeders, while starlit strobe lights flash about the primordial ballroom. Sometimes our bodies float from our dreams and travel to the party. We wake, hung over with desire, naked beneath our morning sheets. Got to have some sexy stuff in there too. I better wear my reading glasses. I'm trying not to, and it's just not working very well. So this one was an odd poem. This was published, I think, in North Carolina Literary Review. And I've always loved Christopher Plummer. And if you've ever been put under for surgery, I'm sure most people have been at this age. I think most of us are up there. You sometimes have weird hallucinations, and so one thing led to another, and this was a poem. I think I was having a giant. I used to have a lot of polyps in my uterus, and I think I was having a giant polyp removed. Captain Von Trapp in the surgical suite. It's Christopher Plummer in surgical scrubs, holding a guitar instead of a scalpel. I tell him his version of Edelweiss is a favorite memory from my youth, that every man I later dated was held up to him in that one glowing moment, and no one has compared to Captain Von Trapp. My present husband sings karaoke even though he lacks the voice. It takes a certain kind of man to belt out lyrics out of tune and in front of an audience. Christopher Plummer is about to remove my uterus. I tell him I have terrible doubts about his skill as a surgeon. Just because a person is talented in one arena doesn't mean that ability spreads to other areas like medicine. Trust me, he says. The infusion into my veins is a bottle of my favorite gin. Feeling woozy, I shrug, realizing I no longer control either body or life. Before falling under, I recall reading that Edelweiss was dubbed in by another singer. Is the illusion of talent just as good as the real thing? Too late to change doctors, I fade in the clean, white room, seeing star-like flowers rising as Edelweiss carries across the gurney and my uterus dances away from my body. Thanks. Hmm. I really want to read a poem in here. It's a little long, so I feel bad about reading a long poem. I think it's probably the longest poem I've ever written, but it is actually one of my favorites in the book. I can't remember where it was published. Barry keeps a list. I've lost track of where my poems are, so thank goodness he keeps the list. The speculum is a huge part of females' lives. I think that we all dread the speculum, and this poem is called The Speculum. The speculum is cold, but necessary. I am trying to make sense of love arising inside disease. How many times must I be peeled open? Am I an orange? Am I a can of paint? The doctor speaks in terms of fruit and objects like golf balls. There are numbers and centimeters that carry no weight in my body. Parts expand that should not grow. I do not know how to shrink. Once a man entered my home. I invited him in. It was dark here, and my head got lost in malignant clouds for too long. Such a toxic city of blood and waste. Inside my girly body glowed warm, a blanket, a cocoon. Alice is found whole in the ground after the long red rain. Others too grew lost inside. This amused me to no end. Prince of Jacks, King of Deception. There were no clocks in that dark place. At some point, I threw a never-ending party. Liquor bottles, jazz, too many dance cards. I pick you and you and you until the door slammed shut and the adult voice woke up. But now instruments have become my lovers. Cold, brutal arms and hands. Someone has opened up a lemonade stand inside my body. There is no lemonade, only a plush lawn growing thicker, named uterus, named keep it coming. In real life, I remain composed. I knew one day I'd lose control. There was a woman screaming with a megaphone, keep it coming. Inside, filled with disease, growing cells that should not grow, I yell, I am done with making human beings. Who gave you permission to bury aliens inside me? Don't even get me started on buildings of prayer and God. Old home for my 3 sons, seeds planted, grown to trees, warm cradle created by me and my mother's mother. Do not speak to me with your silver tongue, steel thief of endometrium, enemy, helper. Look for the helpers, I told my children. Such disguises they wear. Men in white uniforms. Still, I need you like I need a strong body on top of these hips. Stop prying me open. Dark creatures hide inside, the ones from my childhood closet. But pry me open, I need to know. In the surgical suite, the uniformed men say, close your eyes, sleeping beauty. You trust no one holding sharp-edged blades. Instrument with no song, no string or bow. How will I hear music again? Now just these notes of despair released from my own fleshy mouth. Bring on the chorus, excise those dark places. Okay. So I don't have a big family. A lot of distant relatives died in the Holocaust. And so I have brothers. And on my father's side, everyone's gone. I had a cousin, my cousin Michael, who died at the beginning of the pandemic. He had lung cancer and he was only in his 60s. But this is about him. It's called Excision. Behind my cousin's eye, they find a sac, a cyst, decide to excise it. The doctor dissects this body mystery. He finds a tooth, a hair. How long it had been there? What was the cyst? Lost, twin, absorbed after cell division. My odd cousin, always quiet, uneasy. I blamed it on the accident, that Mack truck going 50, his dented bones and skin. He retreated to a hospital bed for a year, from 4 to 5. Relatives were amazed he was even alive. At night, he was perturbed by the shake rumble of passing vehicles, a whisper heckling inside his ears. Maybe he knew what tried to grow inside of him but never could. At night, the unborn twin fed distressing secrets from that prison head. Did he ask, why you instead of me? That was about, yeah, my cousin found out later in life that he had been a twin and it was absorbed. Very, very odd things. Things grow on us in my family. I don't know why. So in one of the sections of the book, I have some Jewish poems, things related to the body and Judaism. And I don't know if you know what a mikveh is. It's a ritual bath that you go in. It's like a pool, and you go in the water and you say prayers. And because we had a strange rabbi for a while, for some reason our temple went through a lot of rabbis, and this one rabbi told my mother incorrectly. Her father was an Orthodox Jew, and her mother wasn't Jewish. But she converted to Judaism when she was younger, before she married my father, who was Jewish. So anyway, one of this rabbi said, "Oh, your children aren't Jewish because they have to do the mikvah," which is crazy talk because we were all Jewish. Um, but I have two older brothers and one younger one, so that gives you some context. At the mikvah, age 4. For weeks, my brothers flooded me with tales of drowning, said the special pool was where young girls sank and did not rise again. When we appeared at the mikveh, attempt to quell the swell of non-Jewish blood swimming through our veins, I planted myself upon a bench, refusing to budge from my position, wanting to live no matter the future cost. In my heart, I was a Jew, this I knew. No ceremony could make it so. Better to stay than go. While brothers and mother vanished underwater and prayers rang out in the other rooms, alone I remained, wordless, prayerless, still and silent as a stone. I was stubborn even then. My mother told me my first words were, "Let me do it myself." Okay. So I'm going to read two more. I'm writing a young adult novel. I think I'm on page 150 something now. My goal is 300. I had another young adult novel that came out during the pandemic, which meant all my readings were canceled. But I like to explore teenagers who have some difficulty at home. I have a lot of experience from my own childhood. Um, and in the book I'm writing, one of the kids, one of the teenagers, doesn't have enough food. This is called Hunger. I teach my children survival to ensure continuation of name and line, show how even a poor person can sustain life on makeshift meals found in every cafe and fast food establishment, how condiments of mustard, ketchup, mayonnaise squeezed out like packaged caviar onto unwrapped saltine crackers can create a square sandwich piled tower high, yellow, red, and white globs dripping and oozing between stiff, salty layers. That the fancy foreign car dealership stocks juice, soda, and dozens of glistening glazed donut delights for their clientele to devour. Lint in our pockets today, dollars may follow tomorrow. In my childhood kitchen, where bare refrigerator shelves held little ketchup, bread, milk, and eggs, I learned these lessons too. Make do with what there is, create and stack dreams from what there is not. Okay, so I'm going to end. I'm sorry these are so depressing. These are not fun poems, I guess. Um, Before Malika started recording, we were having a conversation about tending to parents and how we sometimes have to help our ailing parents as they once took care of us. Um, my father died when he was 77. My mother is going to be 90 next May, so I think about these things. This is called When We Lose Both Parents. And Oliver from this, it's based on the Dickens novel that the play was based on, Oliver Twist. When we lose both parents, we become grown orphans again. Oh, stork, oh, great sky hand, drop me again inside a home of cradling arms. Young Oliver, all of us, waiting open mouthed, so hungry, our mothers and fathers taking with them all the serving spoons inside the house. Thank you so much for listening.
Maureen, what a gorgeous one to end on, and what a hard one. And I relate to it deeply. Thank you so much. If y'all want to unmute and just take a moment to say thank you. I know there's some questions. I already saw some really great comments that I think will be helpful. Yay. Thank you, Maureen. Does anybody have a question? Because if not, I'll start. All right, Maureen, I actually do want to know, so you move between multiple genres. When you start writing, do you know right off feels like more like a, short story, or this feels more like a novel, this is a poem? Do you move between the different genres?
Yeah, I mean, with poetry, I almost hear a beat in my head.
Okay.
I hear a beat, often a line will drop inside my head, and then the next line, and then I just keep going. I try to write quickly, several in a row when I'm writing poetry, and I try to examine a topic much like you would turn over a rock and look at it from different angles. Um, Flash fiction, I kind of know when I'm writing flash, that would be a thousand words or fewer. I love the
Mm.
challenge of writing like a page flash to have it be meaningful and interesting, and those usually image driven. But yeah, poetry kind of comes with almost a tune in my head, I guess. And the words, there's assonance and consonance and all that. And then the novels, you know, are slower. I start kind of picturing characters and
Mm.
and I start hearing them talk, and I wonder what the conflict is. And then I start writing and I see where I am. And then I'll kind of map out some plot points. And then I'm doing this novel more organically. It's kind of developing. I'll have like a direction I want to go in a chapter. And then sometimes these characters just start talking and saying, no, this is happening. Yeah. So, yeah.
I,
So I guess I usually do know, although I have had some poems that turn into really short flash or prose poems.
okay. Yeah, I wondered if there had been a crossover at some point, because certainly, you know, that would make sense to me that there'd be some, prose poems and then flash fiction and poetry that kind of maybe morph into each other. But a lovely reading. And I think that you say things in such a way that you tell this great story, but if I step back, what I really notice is the music. So I'm not surprised that what calls to you first is a beat and maybe a line coming back, because I think that I in this reading, for some reason, I just really heard the musicality, and I was like, that is awesome.
Mm.
Um, Regina, you said you can really relate words coming in a tune, which also doesn't surprise me because your poems are very musical. That's very strong, the musicality. Does anybody have a specific question to Maureen? Because
Yeah.
yeah, jump in, Cindy.
Um, just Maureen. Well, I loved your reading. Wow. Um, I had looked you up earlier, so I read a couple of the poems. You know, just to familiarize myself. I do that. Before the readings. How old were you when you started writing? What was the impetus for it, and how did you know you were a writer?
I think if you talk to a lot of poets about when they were younger, I was very much on the outside of my universe, trying to understand people and things. And I spent a lot of time climbing trees. And I mean, part of the reason is I had a very hostile household, and I didn't want to be there. And I was outside a lot, and I would just wander around. We were unsupervised for most of the time, honestly. And I spent time in trees, looking at the birds and trying to figure out the world. And when I started writing stories, I was about 8. And my grandfather was a country doctor in upstate New York, and he was always working on a memoir about his time in Germany. And he had a typewriter, and he gave me an old typewriter. And I remember when I visited him over one summer, he was a very good, positive influence in my life, which it's probably why I'm somewhat normal. Um, and he would drop me off at a farm during the day, and they would teach me to ride horses. And I learned a lot, and I would do chores on the farm. But he gave me a project when I visited him this one summer when I was 8. He wanted me to write an entire book of poems, and I did. And he said, "Well, I'm going to give you $5 for that." And the thing that
That's
always
more than I've gotten.
thing that always makes me tear up is after he passed away, and it was pretty sudden. I looked in his dresser drawer, and he had kept that all those years,
Yeah.
and that really made me cry. And I don't cry easily, so
Cindy, I'm so glad you asked that story, because I have known Maureen for a very long time and I didn't know that story. I love that. I'm so grateful for him for giving the typewriter to you.
yeah, me too. So I spent a lot of time. I had a pile of Nancy Drew books, and
Yeah.
I'd go to the library a lot, and I spent a lot of time in my room. At one point, my mattress broke and there was no one to fix it. So I just had this mattress on the floor, which I began to think was normal until a friend from later from college came over and said, Maureen, where's your bed? And I said, oh, it broke many years ago. And she's like, she didn't understand. She came from money and I didn't. And I used to
Uh,
just type up stories in my room and keep the door closed.
A very poetic thing, to have matches, the bed on the floor and, you
I
know,
don't know if it was poetic. It
walking.
was, growing up in a poor household was what it was.
Well, yeah, but You know, now it seems like a poetic thing, you know, to be a
Yeah,
little offbeat.
I guess we can make anything glamorous.
No,
Maureen,
that's
being
go ahead,
being a
Cal.
discus thrower from New Jersey, when I first met you, the first fascinating thing I learned about you is that you were a discus thrower from New Jersey.
Not the discus, the javelin and the shot put.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah,
I thought it was
not the
discus
discus.
for
Yeah.
years.
That sounds even more dangerous.
Yeah, I was gonna
The
say
javelin.
we're gonna call that in the badass category for
I
sure.
was gonna say.
Well, you know, it gave me a sense of power. It really did. And I think the girl in my book, she's going to do spring track, and I think she's going to be a javelin thrower because it really. Now the boys were crazy. The boys team, they would throw it and catch it, and I think they stopped doing that when somebody got it in, you know, his foot. But the girls didn't do that. But you know, it's very powerful throwing a metal spear.
You should put that
Yeah,
in your bio.
my
Yeah,
knee.
right. Chrissy, I do think that'd be something to put in a bio. Yeah. Shamala sent a link on our friend, oh gosh, and I just name just went out my head, who wrote about poets' bios and all the different versions she would do. The name's gonna come to me in just 2 seconds, but I want to get back to that. So, you know, the body remembers. I loved hearing the ruminations on how your body has like that dialogue. It kind of felt like I was really listening in on somebody, their mind and their body and the conversations between the two. And I have to say, you know, for me, it really resonated deeply, especially the C-section one, because that's an experience that my first child was C-section. And it does, I swear I have felt pain there when she's going through something. So I've never heard that put that way, but I just deeply appreciate the examination of the body. When did you know you were working on this collection? Because it sounds like it's been a span of time.
I've probably always been working on this. I did, you know, sometimes I'll write based on a theme and keep going with it and it sort of becomes a book. This one I think I've been writing my whole life. Because you'll see some of the poems, you know, were published in older journals. You know, they weren't as recent. I have newer ones in there as well, but you know, I always come back to this. It's a very feminist theme, I think. I don't know if the men relate to this. I'd be interested in asking the men in the group, that the few men, if they relate, because you know their bodies are different. They've had other experiences. I think there's something about being able to birth a child and carry a child that changes us in so many ways. Um, and then the other things that can happen with the body.
I think that's a very good question. You know, did the men in the room relate to it? I'd be, you know, curious about that as well. And certainly having genetic material of another being in your body is a different experience, right? But I wonder also just, I mean, because we all experience the aging of the body. And like you were saying, almost everybody has had a surgical procedure, although that was not my experience. But
I just had cataract surgery, 2 of them.
yeah, you did. Yeah.
I did. I've had breast cancer surgery. I've had, yeah.
Yeah, by the age that it looks like most of us are, I don't think any of us in our 20s anymore.
Thank you for reminding.
You know, even if you didn't go through childbirth, you know, you've had moles, you know, taken away, and
Yeah.
I'm just very lumpy. I have pillar cysts, and they grow into very large things on my head. And thanks to my dear old dad, he gave me a lot of negative things, unfortunately. And it's just some things are genetic, and I had like 5 of them removed at one time at a hospital, like when I was working at Alamance, and I think I went to school the next day. I don't know what I was thinking. And you know, they have to inject your head with a numbing agent, which is one of the worst parts, and then they dig these things out of your scalp. And I keep getting them my whole life. The people have worse things, but I had a lot of female issues like a lot of females do.
Yeah.
There's
But
always
that complex relationship between, us and our bodies, and I think that as we age, that is increasingly an experience, So I just appreciate that meditation on the body. And of course, I love the first poem. I'm sorry. That's just everything about that poem. But would any of the men in the room want to talk to what she asked about? Did you relate to the poems?
Barry, I never asked you. Why don't you comment? Turn your mic on. There you go.
Yeah.
That it's a huge leap. It's an important one that we all can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yep.
It's such a huge leap, but that doesn't mean I don't want to hear about it and have knowledge about it, but to relate to it on any kind of actual level, I just I can't do it. On an actual, I don't know if visceral is the right word for your question. I just can't understand what a lot of that would be like. As you're being a mother or any of you and carrying children, that part of it is just, beyond my ability to understand.
Oh, thank you. That caught me off guard. I was just curious.
Yeah.
I agree
Yeah.
with Barry.
Okay. Yeah. No, it was interesting. Thanks for asking the question, Maureen. It was interesting to hear. Yeah. Does anybody have any other questions about the book or Maureen's process? Or yes, Elaine. Oh, and then Marion.
I'll just share that, is it my turn? Okay. Sorry, I haven't Zoomed in a while. My Zoom manners are kind of, I keep thinking back to the poem that talked about the pod and the peas. And, that image was very profound for me, because I can remember what it feels like to just be absolutely stuffed, about to burst out. And I like that. I'm a gardener, and so I like that connection between the human birth process and the plant
And
birth
I
process.
like it because peas sound so close to peas. And so there was that's the association, I made in my head, because you're saying what was the line? You were looking for peas, the peas in your body. And I'm thinking peace, like peace of mind, or, peace in your body.
Oh, it's good to hear that conversation, but I also think that that made me think of two things. Marion, it made me think of the organic nature of the female body and Mother Earth and things like that. So and also the nurturing and the very hands-on experience. And then Cindy, I love, because I too, when I heard peas, I knew it was peas in a pod, but I also did hear peace. And so I thought that was me just like catching something in the wrong way. But you also got that as well.
Well, someone had written peas, and I said it is peas, and so I knew, and also because of the pod. But that's how I interpreted it, because it is so close.
Yeah, same. Interesting. Well, you think about the weight of a poem, it's what the author intends, but it's also what the reader brings, and that conversation between the two is its own entity, right? And so it's nice, that lines resonate with a lot of people. It's also nice when it feels very personal, or it brings up a very personal memory or connection. So it's
Elaine
fascinating
had
to
a
have that conversation. Say it again.
Elaine
Yes,
had
Elaine.
Oh, okay. I have a comment, Maureen, and then a question. First of all, I love your poems. They're really brilliant. You said they're not much fun, but they are fun. And they're fun because, well, I relate to them. And also, the words and the images are so just vibrant um, and allow all of us to make a connection or to see something or smell it, right? Or just to be there. I mean, that's why poetry matters to me anyway, is because of the sound and the images and the beauty, regardless of the subject. Poetry is beautiful, right? And so, and fun. I mean, they're fun because they're surprising, and you write things and then you speak them to us that I hadn't anticipated. So
Good.
your poems are fun. Okay. The second thing, though, you said you really have been writing this collection maybe like all of your life, which doesn't surprise me because it's about the body. So then I wonder, okay, you get to a point and you think, I want to put a collection together on this topic. This is what always stumps me when I think about a collection, and it's not poems, but maybe memoirs, short memoirs. But how do you order them? How do you figure out
Yeah, that's a good.
order and how to put them in sections?
It's kind of an organic process. I know a lot of poets will print out all their poems, put them on the floor, shift them around. So I typically like to have 3 or 4 sections. So the first section is called sutra, which comes from the word that means thread. And I was thinking of the stitches. Sutures is comes from that. There's another type of sutra, a Vedic something, but that's not what this was referring to. And so those ones were very strongly about the body, the female body. The second section is memory. And that just, after looking at the second section I had in a pile, I said, these all seem to belong here. The third section is drowning. That had a lot of things about family. There was some mythology in there. Things about, yeah, more about family. They always sneak into my poems for some reason, you know. So I kind of looked at what I have and think about it and see if I have sort of a theme for each section and if all 3 themes relate to the main topic. And it's different for every collection. I think other writers could speak on this. But it is sort of an organic procedure. It's not real technical.
Well, I can't wait to have the
It's
book
intuitive.
so that I can look at it, and
Yeah.
read the poems, think about it.
Barry, you had a question?
Your mic's off.
So to just follow up with Elaine's question, once you have them kind of bundled, and related, do you then consciously go through them and change any of the language, titles, maybe endings, so that they kind of transition, segue to each other more effectively?
It's more of an arrangement within each section. Like I don't want to have, sometimes I want a grouping, but if I see similar language, I kind of want to spread them out a little bit more. So, I have some Jewish poems all related to this in the same section. I try to keep them sort of thematically together. So I have in the middle section Losing Jersey, which is an old poem about, losing my accent, which you could say is part of who you are, not really the body, but sort of, because how you speak is part of the tongue. And then I go to At the Mikveh, age 4, and then I go to Tashlich, which is a ceremony to cast away sins during the High Holy Days. And then I go to another Jewish poem, Tikkun Olam, the Dream and the Thread, which is about repairing the world, which brings in the thread again, and it brings in the Jewish concept. And And then I go to my Jewish heritage about the cousins I never met who were killed. And then I go to leading prayer in Hebrew school. So, subconsciously, I think I'm kind of working these things out. It's kind of funny to look through it now and say, why did I do that? But I do a lot of things just come together and I know the right order. And maybe that's like a musician who after years of playing doesn't have to look at music anymore, right?
Well, certainly, 14 books in, we know what you're capable of. I would say that knowing your work as I do, this book struck me very differently. That's why I asked how it came about, because it seemed to span a lot of length of time. And so when you answered, I've been writing this book pretty much all my life, that really resonated with me.
Well,
I think,
the body is ever changing. We
yeah,
go through different stages with our body, starting with adolescence and, female's menstruation and then, bearing children and then all the things, all the problematic things, the cysts and the growths that happen. And then as you age, I'm sure there'll be other body poems as well, hopefully nothing horribly fatal. But I think it's ever evolving just as our bodies are.
yeah. Well, thank you so much for a wonderful night. I really love the range. And I'm sorry. You said, I'm sorry these poems aren't fun. The sheer delight we take in hearing, well-crafted, powerful poems read so wonderfully is everything. You're not required to clock in. I mean, I know, like I was joking, you're the party hostess with the mostest for sure. But thank you for this reading.
Thanks for listening, everybody. I appreciate it. And yeah, if you're interested, you can order it now. You'll get it October 14th. And it's the press is Unsolicited Press in Oregon, but you can go to MaureenSherbondy.com and it will
Thank you, Laura. Laura's putting the direct links into the chat as we speak.
Thank you. I appreciate what you do, Malika, so much.
Oh, it's my pleasure. And I hope that, people can follow that link to get the book. I also put your website in there, but thank you, Laura, for the Unsolicited Press link so people can get that book. Well, we're moving into open mic. I have Karen first. Hey, Karen.
Oh, geez, I get to follow directly behind Maureen. Thanks, Malika.
You're welcome.
All right. Well, just for that, this is some really fresh ink. So I finished this a couple hours ago. Yeah, because my husband and I were in the mountains this weekend. So there was that. At the Hilton Garden Inn, Asheville, NC, the two of us. Sunrise as mandarin orange, rising from rivers of juice, filling the glass of this fourth-story window. Mountains as gray pyramids rising from the banks of orange-red rivers. Underpass, overpass, passing over unders, under overs. And tree we'll call oak, which is mighty and aged, and waving its yellowed hankies of leaves at breezes, releasing a rogue hanky or two to the gusts. And parking lot, imagined as gray checkerboard, with cars as pawns to be moved and removed, and checkmate, checkmate. I did. He is sleeping. Still, missing my silhouette here. Me, before all of this morning glory.
Oh, that's gorgeous. That is a very sweet poem. It's also got a little spice in there, Karen. I like
Just
it.
a little bit. Just a little bit.
Went there with you. That's beautiful. It's wonderful. Thank you, Karen. Yeah, the queen of wordplay is what Regina just wrote it. True story. Lynn, I have you next.
Thank you. That was a wonderful reading, Maureen. Really amazing. Okay. My poem is called Time Travel in Treadwell, and Treadwell is a tiny town in upstate New York. I think the most recent population was something like 140 people. It used to be a happening place, but no more. Time Travel in Treadwell. On the dead-end porch where children's voices still echo from the afternoon reading, I'm fluffy and white like a cloud in the sky. I count what's missing. No hum from power lines, no refrigerator's distant growl, no air conditioners churning against August heat, just the creak of this bench worn smooth by a century of waiting bodies. The afternoon light shows grooves in the floorboards where rocking chairs were paths, where boot heels drummed against wood during long talks that ran past bedtime. The community garden grows mostly tomatoes and quiet. Then 1900 steps onto the porch, not in my mind, but in my bones, the way this wood holds every footstep, every voice that ever carried across these boards. Then a jet's silver scratch across the sky's blue slate. A car door slams 3 blocks over. Someone's phone buzzes against their palm, and suddenly I'm foreign to myself. Sorry, I just lost my place. And suddenly I'm foreign to myself. This body that just knew the pull of a well handle, the heft of a butter churn, now fumbling for what century I'm supposed to inhabit. Thank you.
Holy smokes. I'm sorry. And suddenly I'm foreign to myself, just way brought me into the moment. Fabulous, Lynn. And 140 people, 141 with you there. Yeah, that was wonderful.
Thank you.
Heading to Terry next. There you are. I see you.
Okay, sorry. Can you hear me now? Okay. First of all, I want to say that was a wonderful reading. Very powerful poems. Love them all. And in thinking about poems about the body, I couldn't help but think about my daughter, who is a massage therapist, but she also has MS. So she goes to work every day to help other people all day long, every day, feel better when she doesn't feel so great a lot of the time. So this poem is from my book, Night Talks. Massage therapy. Hour after hour, my daughter labors in low-lit rooms to calming sounds of falling rain, flute music, or ocean waves kneading the flesh of strangers. Her hands, coated with fragrant oils, glide over aching muscles, her dark hair framing her face like the folded wings of a black swan. Her attention laser focused on a client's latissimus dorsi, trapezius, and rhomboids, labels new to most. But we all know where it hurts, how unkind words, jobs that went to someone else, the loves we have lost, lodge in our lower backs and shoulder blades, our sore necks and tight tendons. And we know how good it feels when tension melts away. The pulse of our pain slowed by someone who moves through this world like a sun, sharing her warmth and her light.
Oh, Terry, that is gorgeous and powerful. Yep.
Thanks.
We all know where it hurts. That's going to be the line. Christy, I have you next.
Can everybody hear me? Okay, so Maureen, I could have listened to you read for another hour, and since you read a lot about the body, I picked this one. This is called Yes, I Interview Sweaters. Because I can't just pull the thread and walk away. Wearing the wrong one leaves my body exposed to the elements of being labeled a second. Thank you.
Please smokes, Christy, I had not heard that one. That is freaking awesome.
Fresh ink.
Yeah, yeah, I love it. That is awesome. Makes me excited when I hear something totally new and unexpected. Bob, I have you next.
Okay. Okay, this is a short one. But then most of mine are short. One can climb without being taught. One can sing or count or identify the animals. The tree's always a way of hiding the sky, of listening to the air.
Damn it, Bob. Every single time. That is gorgeous. And my brain always goes, please smoke.
Thank you.
Fabulous. I kind of need that last one someplace. Again, say that the last lines about the tree is
Of listening to the air.
yes, thank you. Just makes me happy. Elaine, have you next? Oh, she must have had to leave. Yeah, I just realized it was gone. So we will go to Cal.
All right. I want to add my appreciation for a really great reading, Maureen. Your poems are really easy to get interested in, I think. But anyway, I wrote, this is my first Tyboon. And I haven't really written another one that I thought was good, but this is called A Moment. Green dogwood and beech sway slowly in a breeze. Crow's shadow, bigger than the bird, moves across the lumpy meadow full of buttercups. Mama mouse pokes about between sawgrass tufts, hides from predator bird. No color in sky but shades of blue. Sea air floats in from past the low ridge. Late afternoon rain comes on with small solitary tea cell. Train spout drips in time with nothing. Thank you.
Love that. Thank you. Now we've got the echo. Got to mute it. Sorry, Cal. Whenever you and I, whenever that microphone hits, it just doubles the voices. Thank you, Cal. Make sure you check. I keep forgetting. I want to remind everybody, check the chat section. I don't want you to miss any comments on open mic poems. Cindy and then Regina is the last two for open mic. Cindy.
I was going to read a poem that I just wrote in last week, but since we're on the subject of the body, I had written in 2015, published by Glass Liar Press. I know you know them, Malika. Ami published Habeas Corpus. Corpus means body in Latin, and every poem in this collection, which is mostly prose poems, but all of them are, relate to a different body part. I'm gonna read a very short one. I might have read it before here, but suck it up if I did. It's called Eyebrows. After the chemo zapped my eyebrows to kingdom come, I took my coal black pencil and drew an arched and defiant line in the sand.
Freaking love you. That is awesome. Really powerful. And I also have to say, suck it. I hadn't heard that one before from you. So I'm glad you read it. Yep. Zap my eyebrows to kingdom come.
Yeah. And I'm Jewish. What do I know about kingdom come? We don't do that in Judaism. Maureen will tell you that.
Now you've got Regina laughing, and it's her turn to read. Thank you, Cindy. Regina, you're next.
Oh my goodness.
So good.
Cindy is something else. Love you, love you, love your work. Maureen, I love your work. I think all of us are just kind of, just in awe of what you've been able to produce in this book, and just excited to read more of it. So congratulations to you. So Cindy probably should have gone after me, because this is not as full of light. I started watching Come Hell or High Water. It's been 20 years since Hurricane Katrina. And I remember that 2005 when it happened. And the horror of it was such that, over the years, I think I just kind of pushed it to the back of my mind. When I started looking at this show, which is on Netflix, it's episodic, it reminded me that so much of what we see today happening in our society really has often happened in these smaller places. I started writing a poem that is probably not finished, and it's in development under the working title, Sometimes a Dome Ain't Home. If you remember that, many of the people who were trying to, get out of Katrina were poor and primarily African American. One, sometimes a dome ain't home. I almost forgot to think about Katrina, secured and then unsecured, water fitful and finally free, blood mingling in the foul and murky deep, bodies deemed unsanctified, unpurified, undefined, too many, too poor, and too Black to be identified. But surely God's spirit would move upon the face of the water and lift them up above the water, and the blackest angels would fly and wrap them in soft wings, carry them, spirit them away, home, to. Those words that describe those days, those months, those years lost, those lives lived, still living, those words that many would have had pulled from our tongues, that we might not speak of the unspeakable horrors of those skins and bones on corners, on bridges, under domes of grief and thunder. In despair, in fear, enraged, tongues stayed until they no longer could. The truth of Katrina is the truth of this land, like a levee bursting, a water circling, an erasure eliminating, a loaded gun aiming at inconvenient truths. 3, food that would surely rot in quick time, living in stores that could not sell them. Hate is so full of rot, dressed in righteousness. A white man heralded as a hero for finding food for his family, any port in a storm. A Black man heralded a criminal, a thief, a ne'er-do-well, worthy of a hoodlum takedown in this soup bowl full of sorrow.
Damn, no, it was in the right order. And like Cindy said, thank you for revisiting Katrina. And that documentary is just brutal and painful to watch. As someone who's lived in New Orleans and worked in New Orleans and had family in Katrina that we couldn't find. Powerful, Regina. And I do think that is apropos of our times. It's the same thing.
Emerging again and again. It just,
God,
it's a lot. Yeah.
It's a lot.
Mhm.
I would definitely. And thank you for being someone that writes into that allotness and holds it and gathers it up in a way that I think really for me feels good to hear it spoken. It really does.
Thank
That's the truth telling. Yeah, you say you're not a fire talker. I still think you are. I just think you do it in a
Well, my
different
mama
way.
said I was fire. See, not a fire.
Well, then go
talker.
ahead
I'm
and
just
burn
a
it
fire.
down. Yeah, just go ahead. Burn it down, burn it up.
Burn it
It's
down.
beautiful.
Thank
I'm gonna make sure you have a chance to look at the chat section, Regina, because I don't want you to miss it. Thank you all for being here and creating a community. Maureen, for letting us celebrate with you and for reading some kick-ass poems. Yes, somebody wrote in there, I think it was your friend that said, write a poem to the patriarchy about your javelin or throwing a javelin. It's something in there. You'll see it in the chat section. Be well, people. And Karen, thank you for always being my co-host. She got my back. I appreciate it. See y'all next week.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.